the process of creating a work begins with, figuring out what size I'm going to work, because I like the variety of sizes I'm able to do. And it's if I need to stretch a canvas, if I need to size and prime panels, all of that happens. There's days and hours that are spent just getting those things ready. And then it's taking the photos and figuring that out, getting them developed. I try to work from bigger prints just to get as much information as possible. And then eventually I get to actually start painting and figure out, what backgrounds I want to do, if it's going to be a print, if it's going to be a solid. Those things definitely change from what I think that they're going to, but it's a pretty organic process once you get past all of the stuff I have to get out of the way to be able to have the materials ready to go. Always interested in theater from a very young age. My sister went on to major in theater, and our next door neighbor went into film. And we would put on plays in the basement, and I got more involved with the background scene and always just enjoyed being involved, but not in a being center of attention role or way. So I hadn't costumed before, but that kind of fell into, my neighbor was doing it and I kind of fell into that, but it's something that I really responded to, being interested in fashion and all. So coming to self-portraits was kind of a strange thing. I can see looking back that it was kind of a natural progression, but I really loved costuming and I loved being able to do that, but I don't really like speaking in front of people. So it just kind of lent itself that as the self-portraits have developed, I've gotten more outlandish or bold or, creative in terms of how that happens. So I just try to bring in, as many things as possible and see what works. Sometimes I have a great plan and it does not turn out at all. And then I just try to keep things around so I can switch it out to see what really ends up working. Role of color in my work is, another thing that's definitely, like the paintings have gotten more feminine, have gotten way more colorful. The first batch of self-portraits that I did, I think was 7 small ones. I used my natural hair color, like they were not what you see now for the most part. So that's another thing that I just kind of let it go, and it's somewhat to the, it's somewhat done because it works having a complete show, with these things and having building a body of work. And that's not to say that they won't at some point get a little more muted or, go in a different direction. But I've just also, because I took such a long break from painting, it's really just constantly a thing of trying to become a better painter. So I see ones that I did early and want to redo them. So it just, things, are somewhat cyclical, and I let them because I see things that I did before and want to make a better painting of that. So it's not uncommon for me to repeat things. But yeah, I try different colors, and it became the ones of just my natural hair just looked lackluster compared to other things. So that's kind of just where they've been going, with definitely a lot of pink. And at some point, I've been thinking I'd like to do a show just with all pink wigs. What if it was this, the whatever persona or character. So yeah, there's plenty to do, just even thinking color-wise, where this could go if I limited that just to see where I could play around within those parameters. I haven't looked much into the history of portraiture other than, whatever I've learned about along the way in my education. What I have tried to look into is more the history of self-portraiture and how that's been used, and that's always just really interesting to see how different women have been able to use their own likeness, and especially coming from whatever background where women were not allowed to go to art school and weren't allowed to draw from the nude, and there's been any number of restrictions. So it's always interesting to see women using their own likeness as inspiration, whether or not that was a one-off or something that they were really into. And I mean, I was looking through a magazine when I didn't really know what I was doing here, and saw a self-portrait that Chantal Joffe had done, who's a British artist, and she's the whole reason I started doing this. And if you look her up, her style is absolutely nothing like mine, but something about the rawness and the specificity of what her people are wearing is really what got me going on this. Thanks to her, that's kind of how this has been going. But yeah, I try to look at as many, female figurative artists as possible. And I mean, Amy Sherald coming along was unbelievable, because I think she was one of the first people too that I really responded to, just because she uses such flat backgrounds, and just sticking the person kind of in the center of it. She's a huge inspiration. So yeah, I mean, there's clearly a lot to the history of portraiture that has informed all of us, whether or not it's direct or not. But yeah, and then obviously the whole idea of selfies has been major in this, and kind of how this started. I used to, in some of the older ones, I actually would still show my arm, that was referencing that I was holding the camera myself. So it took a little while for me to get away from that, and I started using a tripod and doing that. But yeah, it's a lot more modern influences that I would say are directly informing the work. The play or juxtaposition of using very traditional techniques, and then what technology does for me, is my way of responding to the technology. I am very self-conscious even about the photos that I take for these paintings. I occasionally post them, but I just really, I don't like pictures of myself for the most part, and it's just always been strange to see people who just have no self-conscious, problems or reservations with being able to do this. So this was just kind of my response, you get to, I don't know, if I got to be a certain age and I was like, there's no photos of me, just where I was like, but this is, a way that I can respond to that. And yeah, I mean, it's that on a personal level, and then just as a bigger concept, it's just crazy to me how filters and, that side of presenting yourself is so toxic, and, that there's a much darker side to those things of being able to feel like you can only put yourself out there or show the world, the shiny, perfect side. The technical part of these paintings, I'm trying to push myself to not just have it be, myself at the center, but for some reason that I just really keep coming back to that. I'm not exactly sure why that is in terms of composition, other than I like them being somewhat confrontational, and that also, so that the way that I compose them, for what I can think of in terms of a reason other than that's what I picture, the same goes for having such flat backgrounds. I don't usually allow for a lot of space, like there's not a lot of breathing room, like they're right in the foreground. I'm trying to push myself a little bit just so it doesn't become so static. But I think too that that's something that I like referencing in terms of it is from a photo, and I want it to reflect that it's from a photo. It's not from life, and that if I was painting from life, there'd be more movement or there'd be a different play of light. But I like that they look like they are from photos, because that's an important part of the concept. And obviously color is extremely important, and I really like being able to push oil paints to see what I can get out of them in terms of brighter colors, which is not really the traditional approach. So I really go into it trying to find like forms and color more so than specific lines. Because even like I don't do a lot of sketching in terms of drawing beforehand. And I think I just try to find the colors that work and then let them build and kind of become their own thing that I try to, I'll sketch in paint a little bit before, just like playing with just bigger shapes. But there's some artists that, God bless them, can, draw a lot, and that the line is so important to them. And sometimes I feel like I should try to be that, but that's not what reels me in. That's not what gets me going. The role of critique and feedback is something that I don't always seek out, but it is something that's really nice about having a studio here and having 20 some other artists who share this space. And even if it's not about the painting itself, just knowing that there's somebody that I can ask advice to about just about anything. And it's nice, seeing other people's cars here and just being able to go knock on somebody's door and be like, can you take a look at this? And being able to do that. And also, honestly, being in Delaware is great because so many people are accessible that, I've asked a curator to come by and just tell me what she thought. There's so many opportunities for that because it's, such a small town that, when I do need it, I'm able to seek it out. And I'm so thankful and happy every time that it does happen, and I should do it more often because it is such a mind game to just paint myself over and over again. It is nice to just have somebody, just any different perspective on things to see what they see.